Corey, we jumped into something, dude, that I've been excited to play since I saw the trailer. And then after playing, it's funny how sometimes things just change. This is Atlas Fallen. You and I have had two different perspectives in this, in the fact that I've been playing co-op and you've been playing solo. And it seems like there's been a bit of a divide in between the two of us, because I've actually been having someone to play with and go through the story from almost from the very beginning of the game. And for me, I'm having a good time. But for you, Corey, things are a little bit different.
Yeah, you know what, Drew? I was pretty excited jumping into Atlas Fallen. I didn't, outside of the trailer, I didn't do too much research to figure out what this game was. I wanted to be kind of surprised because the trailer did kind of wow us. It looked pretty cool. The concept of this game kind of using the sand as our weapons. I mean, it's really neat. Once you get into the game, you kind of understand what the trailer was kind of showing you. And the idea behind the game here is basically we're kind of in this desert landscape, desert environment, which I believe is for most of the game based on how the mechanics of this game work is essentially we use the sand to help us move around, to create the weapons that we use to attack the enemies. It's actually a really cool idea, and the way they presented it in the game, especially visually, I thought looked really cool. They did an awesome job with that. But playing solo in this game, Drew, there's 3 levels of difficulty. I played on normal to start. I found myself having a bit of a tough time defeating some of the enemies, so I dropped down to easy just to kind of get my bearings. But then, you know what, man? I'm still dying quite a bit. I'm having a tough time. I think it's just probably more me than anything else, but at the same time, this game is a little difficult, especially when you first kind of jump into it.
Yeah, it was definitely challenging. Here's the most challenging part of the game. The opening. Dude, the beginning of the game was one of the worst openings I played in a long time. And for me, I'm like, ooh, if this is how this is starting, we're in trouble getting into Atlas Fallen. And it took probably about a good hour to get past that. Introduce co-op, and then the game opens up. And then you start to understand and unfold the story of what's going on. Is this battle of the gods. One is fighting for the humans, and the other is fighting for Chaos, who's been kind of overwhelmed by Telos, they're called. And it's a cool concept. A lot of battle between beliefs in religion and non-beliefs and all this stuff. And then you go and you have this gauntlet. But the way you're introduced to the gauntlet, dude, I thought, what is this? I'm like, man, it really set the tone. And I was going, okay. I was really, really nervous. But then the more I played, I'm like, okay, the more I'm getting hooked. And then the RPG element started to open up a little bit. And you get these essence, and they're your powers, your abilities. And you have the coolest mechanic in the game is the combat and the momentum. This thing called momentum is a medium, it's a bar, and it builds up the more you engage in combat. And the more you engage, unlocks more of your abilities used to craft with essence, dust, and stone, and this, that, and the other. All these other materials you collect as you go. And then you get into a couple weapons. Dude, I'm still using the same weapons from the very beginning of the game, which blows my mind as an RPG, right? Why did I finish the game with the same 2 I started with? Bizarre. But they really want you to get into the momentum side of things with the essence and start crafting all of these different unique abilities and how you combo those. And you combo those with the co-op partner. Here's the problem, Corey. You played solo, and I get that that is a way to play. That's not the way to play Atlas Fallen. That's what it comes down to, I think. For me personally, coming into this game, like, yo, this is a co-op game. You have to have somebody to play with, and that makes a huge difference in fighting the enemies, with the repetitive enemies though as well. And then even when you get into crafting your armor, dude, it's not crafting your armor. It is, here's an armor set, and you can change the colors of it with dye. And here's the other okay, so dye comes up. You can purchase these from merchants. Yo, I can talk about this game for like an hour straight. So we get into this, the merchants, and you talk to the merchants. I'm like, okay, just zip it, dude. I just want to get in there and buy some stuff. I get in there, and he goes, here's some dye you can buy. It's a bright blue color titled green dye. I was like, yo, like there's just some missteps along the way throughout this entire game. In this, I'm telling you right now, is not in the Game of the Year discussion, Corey.
It is disappointing, Drew, because I'm looking at it and I'm like, the trailers, I'm not going to say deceiving, because you know what, they do deliver on a lot of stuff, but I mean, they made it seem like this epic kind of adventure journey. I mean, I like the story here. It's unique enough. It's not as cookie cutter as what you maybe expect in a game like this. The combat for me is the sole highlight. I love how the mechanics of the momentum work, like you described. Being able to choose the essence stones that I want to use to kind of make at least the 2 weapons that I do have seem a little bit different as I go along is something I really do appreciate, and something I've never really seen in a game before. So that right there gains this 1 point. It's definitely unique in that aspect. But at the same time, outside of the combat, I just found even some of the movement around the map to be a little clunky. I mean, it's weird because the sand kind of carries you in this kind of like turbo fashion, opposed to just, you know, sprinting across the sand. But because of the way the environment's laid out, there's areas where there's kind of these cobblestone walkways that are half covered in sand, and then like when I'm flying across it, then I transition right to running, and then it's kind of like back onto the sand, and I keep going again. Like, it isn't as smooth as you'd want that to be, and it's almost like, well, if you give me this mechanic to be able to travel quickly around the map, make it a little more seamless for me. Don't make it so chopped up when I have to be going over this kind of ruined type terrain. So that for me was it detracted how cool that movement could have been. But you know, overall, Drew, I have enjoyed my time here because I think this game is cool. There's a really cool idea behind the combat, the story, but just overall, man, like you said, I think this one might just be a co-op game.
Sorry. This job is so boring.
Corey, for me, I've had a good time playing Atlas Fallen. A little disappointed in some areas, right? Like the graphics could have been a little bit cleaner, a little bit sharper in my eyes. Our models, character models, just a little under-polished. Voice acting, under-polished. Gameplay, though, dude, is just, it's a highlight. The momentum. Some of the RPG elements could have been a little tighter as well. But again, going into the essence dust and getting all these materials you need to craft. But crafting my armor is a little weak. I'm not crafting just parts of it. I'm just, it's the whole thing, right? You can add little bits or just get a helmet here or there. It's just like, just some weaker elements. For me, Atlas Fallen has been fun, but I don't think it's going to have a lot of legs in the end. And for that, I give it a 7.5. What about you?
You know what, Drew? I agree with pretty much everything you said there. The only thing that really holds me back here is this is a full price title. We're looking at full pop for a game like this. So when we're paying that much money, I'm expecting a little bit more polish than what we're getting here. Not to say there can't be updates at some point that'll change things, but I mean, the base game is there. And like you said, outside of the combat mechanics, I just don't see where this one really shines anywhere that would keep people around. So for me, this one's going to get a 6.5, but there are things about this game I enjoyed. The momentum, the combat is unique. I think more games should look at this type of system and mechanic. I think it's really cool. I think other people that have never played a game like this would enjoy that, but there's just, like you said, not a whole lot else.
For ourselves. And face gods.